Hi, the purpose of this video is to briefly share with you a small section of the Why Build Knowledge and Vocabulary PowerPoint that's available from achievethecore.org. When I first heard about the baseball study by Recht and Leslie, it completely blew my mind and fundamentally changed the way that I teach reading. Recht and Leslie set out in 1988 to answer the question, how big of an impact does knowledge have on reading comprehension? And so they used the text, The Baseball Guys, and tested four groups of students on their reading comprehension of this text. And the four groups that they separated the students into were those with a high reading ability and a high knowledge of baseball, those with a high reading ability and a low knowledge of baseball, those with a low reading ability and high knowledge of baseball, those with a low reading ability and a low knowledge of baseball. And they tested them on both quantitative and qualitative measures, such as verbally retelling the story and reenacting it with figurines, among other things. What they found was that the high reading ability students with a high knowledge of baseball did about as well as was expected and outperformed the other students. However, the next highest performing group was not the students with high reading ability and low knowledge. It was the students with low reading ability and high knowledge. In this study, low reading ability was defined as having performed at the 30th percentile or lower on a standardized reading test, and high reading ability was defined as having performed at the 70th percentile or higher on a standardized reading test. So let that sink in for a second. The students who performed at 30th percentile or lower on a standardized test did significantly better on this measure of comprehension of this text than the students who had high reading ability and low knowledge of baseball. So what does that mean for us in the classroom? First of all, it shows us that knowledge of the topic had a much bigger impact on comprehension than reading ability did. And before you start to wonder, well, was it knowledge or was it their interest in the topic, another separate study was able to control for that and prove that it was knowledge that caused the students to do much better on this text and their comprehension. And also this study has been replicated several times since 1988 and has proven the same thing every time. Knowledge has a much bigger impact on comprehension than ability. So that tells us that with sufficient prior knowledge, low ability students can perform similarly to high ability students, which means that in our classroom, we have the power to help our students who are struggling readers by helping them build their background knowledge on a variety of topics. It also means that students don't have one reading level, as we've previously thought and have been practicing in our classrooms for years. Each student has many reading levels depending on the topic that they're reading about and their knowledge of that topic. You may even want to read that again, because it's taken me several times of looking over that and thinking deeply about it to really let it impact my thinking and the way that I teach my students. If you'd like more information on this and other research that supports the shifts in practice that the new standards require, you can visit achievethecore.org/ELA-research.